If you're developing an electronic product and you have a prototype, you've probably been testing your prototype by hand, checking voltages, probing signals, or just seeing if it turns on. Well, that part's easy. But what about when you're building 100 units, or 1,000 units, or 10,000 units, or a million units? How do you reliably test every board without wasting hours, or missing hidden faults, or slowing down production? It's really one of the most critical and most overlooked steps. So today I'm going to walk you through how real-world testing is done at every stage, from early prototypes all the way up to high-volume production. In the early stage, you're doing everything manually. Multimeter, oscilloscope, maybe a logic analyzer. You just need to validate the core functionality. And for small volumes, that's fine. But even at this point, it helps to think ahead, especially when it comes to test points. Just like you need access to program the board, you also need access to be able to measure and test it. That means exposing critical signals, power rails, and communication lines with test pads or headers. And don't forget about mechanical testing too. Does the enclosure fit? Do the connectors align properly with the enclosure? Catching these issues now is going to save you big headaches later. Okay, once you're building dozens or hundreds of units, maybe for beta testers, crowdfunding, or a pilot production run, manual testing just doesn't scale very well. This is where test jigs come in with lots of spring-loaded pogo pins. And this test jig is called bed of nails testing because you have all of these pogo pins sticking up and it looks a little bit like a bed of nails. Thankfully, this is not for you to lie on. These are custom fixtures that press against your board's test pads using these spring-loaded pogo pins, which help make good contact. Once the board's in place, the test jig powers it up and runs automated tests, checking voltages, I2C communication, sensor outputs, LEDs, buttons, and everything else that's on the board that you want to test. You can even combine this with in-circuit programming, where you end up flashing the firmware and testing functionality all in one shot. The key here is automation. Instead of probing things manually, a microcontroller or PC interface runs a test script that logs the results and tells the operator whether to accept or reject the board. To make this work, you've got to design your board with testability in mind. This means adding test pads for all key signals. This means also that you need to label them clearly in your design files. You also want to make sure these test points are spaced consistently for alignment with the pogo pins. And you want to avoid placing tall components near the test points that could block them. Now, when you're up to building thousands or even millions of units, testing becomes part of the production line itself. Before components are added, the empty PCBs first go through a bare board electrical test to catch any shorts or opens caused during the board fabrication. Next is a functional circuit test, and this powers up the board and simulates real-world use to confirm that everything works as expected. Both in-circuit testing and functional circuit testing each have their own pros and cons. So in-circuit testing is fast and reliable, but it needs a custom bed of nails fixture, which can be expensive and slow to develop, especially for complex or for low volume boards. Now, functional testing is more flexible and lets you test the actual firmware and peripherals, but it might miss subtle hardware issues like a missing pull-up resistor or the wrong capacitor value. Most of the time, factories use both in-circuit testing and functional testing. In-circuit testing is used to catch problems early, and then the functional testing is to make sure that everything actually works. But depending on your budget and production volume, you might just choose one of these testing processes. Make sure you download my free PDF cheat sheet that summarizes all the programming and testing options for scaling your product. You'll also see automated optical inspection, or just AOI. AOI uses cameras and image recognition to check solder joints, part orientation, part polarity, and component placement. It's fast, contactless, and great for catching visual defects before boards move on to more expensive test steps. Another option is flying probe testing. Instead of using a fixture, flying probe testers use a small number of moving probes, usually 2 to maybe 4, and these probes fly around the board to make contact at various test points, one at a time. They measure things like continuity, resistance, voltage, and diode drops. They're super flexible because you don't need any type of custom test fixture, but they're slower than in-circuit testing, especially for big boards or for large volume production. So flying probes are typically used for low to mid-volume production runs or high mix environments where you have lots of different boards that are produced. And then also it's used as design validation and early testing before you build a full test fixture. And sometimes test fixtures include clever sensors too. For example, a simple photo sensor placed near an LED can confirm whether the LED lights up when it's supposed to. That gives you an automated pass-fail check without needing a human to watch the board. At this scale, your design choices really matter. First of all, be sure to add a test mode to your firmware that runs self-checks or exposes internal data. You want to also use serial output or LED blink codes to show test results without needing a display. You can also add test hooks to trigger specific hardware behavior that you want to check, and then also always make sure your test points are accessible and consistent. Factories often combine all of these techniques depending on cost, throughput, and how complex your product is. Even after production, testing doesn't stop. You still might need to do burn-in testing to catch early life failures, or environmental testing like thermal cycling, vibration testing, or humidity testing, or EMI electromagnetic interference pre-compliance testing to catch noise issues before certification. You can also use sample-based testing. So this means maybe testing 1 out of every 10 or 100 units to keep an eye on long-term quality. And don't forget return analysis. If a product fails in the field, have a plan to inspect it. Log the failure and figure out what went wrong. That's how you're going to improve your product over time. So if you're serious about bringing a product to market, testing is not optional. It's how you catch the issues that prototypes commonly miss and helps you avoid costly returns and protect your product reputation. So start thinking about testability as early as your first schematic, and it will save you thousands of dollars in time later. Make sure you download my free PDF cheat sheet that summarizes all the programming and testing options for scaling your product that I've discussed in this video. And if you haven't seen it yet, check out my last video on how microcontrollers are programmed at scale. It's the perfect companion to this video. Check it out right here.